And they say, this is your pill, this is your medication. We're going to fix Antigua and Barbuda. For too long you have prospered. For too long you have had personal income tax exemption from your citizens. You have been irresponsible. How a little dinky 2x4 black undeveloped poor country like this can prosper and have economic growth year after year, year after year. You think they're pleased? They're not pleased, Madam Speaker. So, instead of a member for St. John's release rely on his basic instincts of caring for people and putting people first, he wants history to judge him as a responsible Minister of Finance, as the Minister of Finance who have set this country on a strong fiscal footing. He wants to impress the World Bank technicians, the IMF technicians, Sir Dwight Venner, the President of the CDB. He wants to be the one that history will say he revolutionized the finances in this country and put us on a sound footing. But, Madam Speaker, we cannot eat a balanced budget. Nowhere in the world you eat reduction in national debt. And what we opted for, we opted, Madam Speaker, for improved infrastructure in our country. We opted, Madam Speaker, for good telecommunications versus debt reduction. We opted for education and good health care in our country over debt reduction and fiscal responsibility. That is the hallmark of the Antigua Labour Party. We chose modern port facilities at the Deepwater Harbour over debt reduction and fiscal responsibility. We chose a brand new pier at Redcliffe Quay, where your Minister of Tourism can to their boast that he had 4 and 6 cruise ships at a time. We chose that over fiscal responsibility and reduction in debt servicing, Madam Speaker. We chose a modern state-of-the-art hospital up at the Mount that they have chosen not to open. Madam Speaker, we chose that over debt reduction. We chose it over fiscal responsibility. We chose, Madam Speaker, an institute of higher learning for students for information technology at the Free Trade Zone over debt reduction, Madam Speaker, and fiscal responsibility. We chose Heritage Quay over a ramshackle, nondescript city. Imagine Heritage Quay. Imagine St. John's without Heritage Quay. You know the spin-off. You know the amount of jobs that are created in those stores, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, picture St. John's without Heritage Quay. And now this government is telling us that they're not going to allow locals to buy there. I say that is wrong. If you want locals to buy there, I agree. Let them pay the duty. But don't tell them they can't buy there, Madam Speaker. They have to produce a ticket. Why? You can't have tourists buying and locals can't go into lipstick and buy their perfumes and so forth and their jewelry into Abbott's. But I want to tell you, the tenants down there are going to strike and they're going to demonstrate. And the same Gaff Abbott who put them in power, he upset with them right now. He said he'll be the first one in the front line of any demonstration if all they touch heritage. He said that is his bread and butter. Madam Speaker, to go now into the nut and bolts of this budget, this foundation for a fresh start, I have a few fundamental areas that I would like to critique. And first and foremost, Madam Speaker, is the personal income tax. What the Honourable Minister of Finance tagged as what stabilization fund measure. That's a nice way to put it, stabilization fund measure. It is personal income tax. In any form, shape, or fashion, it is the reintroduction of personal income tax. And I want to say it acts as a disincentive for professionals coming into this country, Madam Speaker, for professionals wanting to move. You just passed mutual trust legislation, mutual funds and trust legislation, where you're telling us you intend to grow the offshore industry. Well, how do you intend to grow the offshore industry, and yet you are going to tax professionals? That cannot be right, Madam Speaker. It is a disincentive. It is telling people, you don't come to Antigua. Madam Speaker, the introduction of any personal income tax will definitely have an adverse effect on the pockets of every single man, woman, and child. You are going into his pockets now and taking out 10, 15, 20, 25%. And he was never accustomed to pay anything for 28 years. He has his mortgages at the banks. He has his car loans up at Daddy and Annie. And when he made those commitments, Madam Speaker, those commitments were made on a fixed salary, on a salary that had no obligation to pay any personal income tax. They were based on certain spending patterns that they've become accustomed to over the years. And now overnight, in one full swoosh, you say 25% out of your pay pocket. That cannot be right. And many persons have expressed concern. Many persons in the government realize so. They realize that many persons will not be able to meet their debt payments and their mortgages for their homes and their vehicles in light of this new personal income tax when they negotiated with the banks on their fixed salaries. And, Madam Speaker, we all realize we have to pay. But you cannot overnight come and say, give me 25% of what you're earning. It is not right. It is not right. And it's going to have serious adverse effects for the people of this country. And I'm asking the Honourable Minister of Finance, who's a caring man, and who says he puts people first, to reconsider this draconian tax measure, because it's draconian, and it's going to affect all and sundry. It's going to affect the middle class in this country that earns over $6,000 a month. What are we telling them? That we're going to punish them? We're going to penalize them for the nice homes and the nice cars? And they will not be able to take their family for dinner at the bistro? Or sticky wicket? Or take their family on a cruise or vacation? It is not right. It is not right. The other point is balancing the fiscal imbalance is dependent heavily, Madam Speaker, on the proposed $151 million bond that the Honourable Minister of Finance stated in his speech. And I applaud the Minister for his initiative. I applaud even more Mr. Maki Abbott, the head of the Abbott Group, who is a true patriot and a true Antiguan in every sense of the word. Because no matter what government is in power, he's always willing, ready, and able to help the government of the day. But I think to say that you're going to raise $151 million in government paper is overly ambitious, is overly optimistic, especially knowing that the confidence in government paper is not at a high, Madam Speaker. People rather to put their money in a financial institution and have a fixed interest rather than to go and buy government of Antigua paper at this time. Maybe 5 years from now. But if he achieves it and he comes back to this Honourable House next year, I'll be the first to get up and say, well done, Mr. Minister, you've earned your keep. There's several giveaways, Madam Speaker, on the tax side. The 2% tax reduction for sole proprietorships, Madam Speaker. And they make a big deal about the 2% tax. I mean, I'm no friend of Leonard's Restaurant. He curses me every opportunity he gets. He maligned me more than he have ever maligned you, my dear Minister. But the truth is he couldn't get more than 36 votes in St. Peter's constituency. He couldn't get a rubber muster. And out of Parliament, I don't believe he got 15. I mean, I'm not a person to come into this Honourable House and malign or degrade anybody. But I think there's no more conceited person in this country than Leonard Trust. But the 2% tax, after all, is not so much of a bad tax. Because, Madam Speaker, you see, unincorporated businesses operated by sole proprietorships amount to nearly most of the businesses in Antigua. I believe it's something like 3,000 sole proprietorships. It could be more. And under the proposed tax measures that the Honourable Minister of Finance is proposing, that we abolish the 2% turnover and we revert to 25% tax for unincorporated businesses, that will now require those unincorporated businesses to go and hire tax specialists, to hire auditors, accounting firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG. You can't subject a little mechanic shop or a little auto body repair shop to go and hire tax accountants to file your returns. It is a much more simple way just to pay the 2% on your gross turnover. And the businesses are enjoying doing it. So why abolish it? I don't think that makes sense, Madam Speaker, in all honesty.